This is a very rare and marvelous experience for me. I've got the most amazing young lady on the West Coast, Kennedy Green, and her champion. Maybe he's not even a champion yet. I don't know. She's a champion, Pekingese. And we're talking to them on the night before Madison Square Garden when she's going to go in there as one of the top junior handlers in the United States. And I think you just turned 11 or 12 or some incredibly low age. At least it's double digits, okay?
12.
12. Okay. And we have Kelly Fishman, who is the veterinarian, the sports veterinarian for this athlete, Lincoln, who I've never thought of peaks as athletes, but that's one of the things that you guys have been working on to dispel the notion that not just a toy breed, but one that almost can't trot, but it rolls along, why they need to be conditioned and why they have all kinds of physical needs as well. Kelly, before I dig in with Kennedy, how did you get connected with her or with her family? She comes from a dog showing family. I've seen pictures of a lot of pugs. Tell me how you got connected with them.
Yeah, they have a circus of pugs, and any circus of pug owner knows that eventually one is going to break down body wise. And I call myself, as a rehab veterinarian, I am like the body shop. I
Oh,
fix
that's great.
mobility. Yeah, I fix mobility, I fix muscles. And I met Shannon and Kennedy because one of their pugs had a spinal cord problem. And so we worked together for, I think it was almost 4 or 5 years with
Wow.
their pugs. And Kennedy was one of the best kids I've ever worked with. She helped me do all the exercises.
Really?
She was there. Yeah, she was right there with me in their backyard in San Francisco, putting dogs over cavaletti poles and through jumps and putting them on the dog exercise equipment. And unlike most pet parents who don't do their exercises with their dogs, Kennedy actually did them. So yeah,
I think it helps being a kid, right, Kennedy? When I was a kid, my friends and I, we would all jump over cavalettis and make pretend we were horses. And we would like canter like a horse. We would do that. But we would also get our dogs to jump over, I don't know, a little picket fence or a broomstick or something. But those were just pet dogs. Lincoln is a pretty impressive, fancy guy. How did you wind up? You're the owner of him, right?
Yes.
That's unusual for a child to be, or junior handler to be an owner of a dog because that's a big deal in the dog show world. Owner slash handler, you're in very special category. You get special kinds of awards because so many people pay a handler to trot their dog around. But the handler has no ownership relationship with the dog and they don't live with the human. I mean, the dog lives with the handler while they're on the show circuit. But
Yes.
is he your first and only Pekingese?
Yes, he is.
And how did you decide when you hear you have all these hairless pugs, right? You have all these dogs that have wrinkles instead of fur, and you pick, or somebody picked for you. How did you wind up picking, I think, one of the most, and I don't mean hairy in a bad way, but full coated, incredibly demanding to groom dogs? How did you wind up going from soup to nut?
Yes. When I was about 2 years old, I went to a dog park with my pugs, and I met this lady who had a pug and a Pekingese. And I basically took this lady's dog and sat in the corner with this dog and wouldn't let anyone else touch this Pekingese. And we became good friends with this lady. And when I was about like 7 or 8, my mom started showing dogs and I started going to the dog shows with her. And I saw a show Pekingese and I just fell in love with them. And you have to start junior showmanship when you're 9 years old. So I waited till I was 9 and I started showing our pug Lucky in juniors. And about a year later, our breeders, Mark and Lori Stevens, actually gave me my dog, my Pekingese Lincoln.
Wow. That's a rather large give. Did they have a sense that you were going to take him to great heights in the show ring?
I think they thought that I would do well. I don't know that they thought I was going to do as well as I'm doing.
Yeah, like this is the number one junior Pekingese handler right? You're like number one with a Pekingese at your age. Are you also like high up in the junior handler world?
I am the number one Pekingese junior handler, and I am the number 7 toy junior handler.
Wow. So this is a fun fact, which you might even know. About a year ago on the show before the Westminster show, which is right now, and people hearing this are going to hear it a week later. So we're going to already know. We don't know right now how you're going to do, but we predict really great things for you. But a year ago, Don Sturst came on the show, who was the Best in Show judge. And he told the story about when he was your age, 9, your age when you started, he became a junior handler and he became the number one junior handler in the United States. And he tells the story of how he had a French bulldog who could not be a show dog because it hated dog shows. And he had some other kind of, if you will, like a pug, a hairless type dog, and decided it was boring. So what did he want to do? You probably know this. He got a Pekingese. And Fiona, as a little baby Pekingese, became a champion instantly. So, do you have points for Lincoln as a Pekingese in the show world, or is it only points for you as the junior handler?
I show Lincoln in both breed and juniors. So, like I said before, Lincoln's the number one. I'm the number one junior handler with a Pekingese, and I'm the number 7 toy junior handler, and I'm also the number one owner handler in Pekingese.
Of any age, like even 70-year-old people.
Yes.
And there's a lot of Pekingese. We don't necessarily see them on the sidewalk because what we'll talk about with Dr. Fishman in a minute is the issue of them overheating and they can't go long distances. They're really meant to be on the Royal Emperor of China's footstool or something. That's what they were intended for. But being the number one owner handled Pekingese in the country is gigantic for a human who's only turned 12, isn't it?
Yes.
Must make you think, what the heck? How did I get here? I just was a 2-year-old in a dog park and I just like this ball of fur. Kelly, what about the heating issues? I read in the New York Post that when Kennedy and her mom Shannon go cross country to Westminster, which is tomorrow, that they put them on a block of ice under the seat. Now, I find this ridiculous because the block of ice would melt. But they do get really hot. That's a lot of fur. And I've been to Westminster and seen the peaks, and they're like, and they have this cute little tongue that kind of curls up, and they just seem to be panting the whole time. Although you're about muscle conditioning and skeletal conditioning, what about the overheating issue?
Yeah, so it's definitely a concern for them because they are so much hair. You can imagine it's like having your hair and then putting like a bunch of sweaters on. And then if you go on a plane, you can still get really hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they travel with him on a little cool pack. And the other thing I know a lot of pet parents do who have Pekingese, they use fans because that's a great way to cool them down quickly too. So I think the cool packs, fans are super important for Pekingese travel.
So how can a fan work if dogs don't have pores?
Because part of when dogs sweat is they do it. I don't want to get too dorky, but it's basically opening up their blood vessels in their skin to release heat. It's called evaporative cooling, right? And so putting a fan on a dog is a great way to just remove some of that body heat that the body is already trying to get rid of.
Even
So
though
it's
it can't
really
sweat.
that's right. Yeah, exactly. They don't sweat, but they cool down their whole body. So actually the best ways to cool a dog is to do what Shannon does and Kennedy do, which are put them on a cool pad and keep them cool. Use a fan. And then if you're really crazy, this is not for Pekingese, but if you have something like a German Shepherd, you could actually get them to dunk their head. And it's a great way to cool them. So
They're
I won't go on a
seriously
tangent.
overheated. Oh, I did a show about that. The woman at University of Pennsylvania who came up with the idea.
Dr. Otto.
Yeah,
Yep.
Cindy Otto. You stick the head. Now you can't do that with a peak, right?
No.
Kennedy, because it's a brachycephalic dog, so it's got a flat face. It's already got some issues about breathing, but it seems like the well-bred Pekingese, and you can tell me if this is true or not, the well-bred ones don't have a serious issue, just like the well-bred pugs don't have the issue. It's when they become puppy millish kind of breeders, they mess them up.
Correct. Yes.
And what about your pugs? Do they all have enough of a snout that they have no problem breathing?
They don't have a snout, like they're still brachycephalic, short nosed, but they don't have any troubles. They don't have any trouble breathing. No.
Yeah, I think the ones who wind up in rescue, my friend Daphne in England had Fizzy. It would have been a champion except for poor guy. Breathing was really a problem. In the summer, you probably are showing all the time. I was wondering if you could ever shave his belly, but that's probably really a no-no.
No, not really, because part of the coat, like on their stomach, is what you can see, that is what the judges can see.
Right.
Kind of hard to take out for
No,
like,
you can't. It'd be very unwise. It would ruin his reputation.
it doesn't grow back quite as fast as you would think.
So you can't during a break have him have less hair. So how many hours, obviously not hours a day, but how many days before a dog show are you working on his coat? Like right now, those people seeing us on YouTube, you're using your brush a lot, you're fluffing him, you're telling it's his tail to go back up over his body like it's supposed to in the show ring. Do you do 10 minutes a day, or is it a whole lot more than that when you're prepping for a show?
So prepping for a show is, it's like you do it every day basically, whether you have a few weeks off or not. So basically I do 15 minutes a day of grooming. It's really not much, but I do bathe him once a week, which does take about 2 hours. And
Oh my God.
you
2
can't.
hours once a week. That's crazy. That's so much hair. I know people who only wash their hair every other week when they have too much hair. I'm exaggerating, but really, it doesn't dry all that easily. So do you have a special dog sink to wash them in?
Yeah, in our kennel we have a special, like a dog wash type sink thing.
Yep.
And it also actually takes, like, when you're blow drying them, you can't stop halfway through and say, okay, I want to take a break, or okay, this is good enough. You really have to make sure that they're bone dry because their hair will mat really easily, especially behind their ears.
Wow. Kelly, is this one of the things that you learned about that you would not have known about? Because this is show dog beauty pageant as opposed to show dog muscle strength and harmony and health.
Yeah, and then also some of the interesting stuff that I had to learn about was the specifics of the breed and how they're expected to look and move. So,
Right.
for example, when I was like talking with Shannon and Kennedy and learning more about the Pekingese and what we needed to do to get him into like maximum shape, some of the things that we had to focus on were core strength or back leg strength because they have to have propel themselves forward and they have to have this certain pear shape and have a bow-legged appearance to their front body and a certain top line that's straight. As a vet, we
That's
don't learn
right.
any of that.
That's
I
right.
know nothing about that. I really have to, just like with any veterinarian, we work with any of our animals in sports, whether it's an agility dog or a flyball dog or a conformation dog, all of them have these specific guidelines and rules, and just our pet parents are, and people even like probably fans of the show are way better and more knowledgeable than
That's
I am.
interesting. So
So,
what's interesting you said about Kennedy when she was little and had to do some rehab over cavalettis, which is low poles for those who don't know what it is, or other kinds of rehab exercise with the pug or the pugs. Kenny, this just is obviously your personality. You're a very precise person. You believe in doing things the right way, all the way. Are you like that in your schoolwork?
Yes, very much.
I bet. So you're like the A student type. You're a type A person, even though you just turned 12. Usually we talk about adults being type A and saying, oh, the poor things, they're so driven. You seem very mellow about it. I'm going to dry every hair on his head and every hair on his body. Then I'll go do my homework. Oh, and then there's the pugs. And what about the pugs? I would think, couldn't you also show pugs, or you can't do two things at once?
I actually, my mom shows our pugs more often than I do, but a lot of times I do show, for example, our pug Lucky just retired, but I was showing him for quite a bit as well as Lincoln. So, yes, I do show pugs and peaks at the same time.
You do. Because I figure you go all the way to New York, maybe not at Westminster, but you go all the way to wherever the show is. And sometimes your mom has to drive you long distances. I figured once you're in the carnival, you might as well take two rides and not just one. But
Yeah.
do you think you have an advantage being a darling girl in a ring full of maybe guys wearing rumpled suits or older ladies in kind of heels and looking like a stewardess or something? I don't mean to say that disparagingly about them, but I think you'd have an advantage. I wonder if people resent you.
So I feel like a lot of times, sorry, I'm trying to word this.
Did I put you on the spot a little bit? I
I'm,
didn't mean to.
oh, it's okay. I feel like a lot of,
I put you on the spot. I would just say that if I was in the audience and I saw this charming young lady moving the peak and the pug around properly, and then I saw these older people who do it professionally and that's their profession, I would think, oh, she's darling. You
well,
probably have never seen Shirley Temple movies, but we all love the little girl doing the grown up thing.
I feel especially in breed judging, it's not as much about who's holding the leash, it's about the dog more.
That's true. That's
So
true.
the dog to its breed standard.
I
Um,
think that's true. Kelly, now you've seen more dog shows since you've been Kennedy and Lincoln's vet or rehab vet or preparing vet. Do you think that it is supposed to just be the dog who's on the other end of the leash? But don't you think that we look at the people a little bit too, or is that just me being too human oriented?
I don't know, maybe. I don't know. I feel like I do look at like the person and the dog. I see what Kennedy's saying because it really is supposed to be
It
about,
is.
you
She's
know,
right. She's
yeah.
right. But at least you don't have the kind of dogs you have to run with. I always feel bad for the people with like the German short-haired pointer and they're like galloping and people say the dog gets tired and I think, what about the poor human? It doesn't seem like a lot, but I tried it for like a minute with my little Vizsla and I'm like, this is a lot of work and I'm an athlete myself. It's hard work. And I suppose even that going at Lincoln's pace, which is slow or
yes.
roly-poly, it's very slow, you still have to pace yourself to him. Kelly, when you talk about this core strength, we're aware of that more with dogs than we used to be. Do you have Kennedy using one of those fit balls, kind of,
Yeah.
or like a rolly, one of those wobbly? I've just been to rehab with one of my dogs when she got hurt, not from being a competitor, but they want them to stand on uneven surfaces. Is that part of what you do?
Yeah, so we do. So what we do is, first of all, as you someone who's been through rehab, you know that we have a million different exercises that we can put dogs through, and people have no clue that we have a plank, which is great
That's
for
right.
the core. We
Yeah,
have dog crunches. We have what I have Lincoln do and Kenny do is they stand him on one of those fit bones, which is an unstable inflatable surface, and that just
yeah.
requires core and full body stabilization. But then we also do like front leg exercises like push-ups and back leg exercises like squats. And my job as a rehab doctor, part of it is to almost be like a fitness trainer for dogs. And
That's
I
right.
have to continually have new exercises and up level their exercises by doing more reps or making them harder or whatever. So many strength training exercises. Core strength is super important to Pekingese because like they're a long body dog. And just like
Can't
with a
tell.
pup.
It's hard for us to tell. It's such
Yeah.
a moving ball of this magnificent, it's not even just fur, it's almost like a cloud. It's
Yeah.
a hair cloud. So I don't think of them as being long like you think of a dachshund as being long or certain other breeds as being long, but I guess he really is
Yeah.
longer than he is, certainly he's longer than he is tall, right?
Yeah.
So that now I've noticed, Kennedy, I looked at a few clips of you at a dog show, and the toy breeds are always set up on a table, and the owner or handler puts them up on the table. How much does Lincoln weigh? Because you don't look that strong, but you pick him up like it's no big deal. That guy's got to weigh a pretty penny.
So Pekingese actually, a lot of breeds have like disqualifications, and
Yep.
a qualification for the Pekingese is actually a Pekingese that is over 14 pounds. So
Really?
on the table, the judge will pick up the dog to actually check
Kidding.
the dog, check the weight of the dog, and they actually are supposed to have 2/3 of their weight in the front. So Lincoln weighs, he goes from 10 pounds.
He's only 10 pounds. He looks like he's 25 pounds. He looks like he's the weight of a medium large bag of dog food if you had to lift it, which is not easy to lift and unwieldy. But when you pick him up off the table, you pick him up in a very balanced way. Is that something that you've worked with Dr. Kelly about? Because I imagine if you pick him up unevenly, he would then have to compensate and maybe feel a little scrambly as you take him from the table to the floor or vice versa.
Um, yeah, I work with Kelly a little bit on that. And I also have a junior handling coach, and she
Oh
helps
my.
with like more of the junior stuff. And part of that is like gracefully putting the dog on the table. So, yes.
You have a junior handler coach. This is a very complex waters in which you swim. It's a very competitive world. Obviously, there are competitions, but I think it's very charming that you're humble and you're very straightforward and you're not working it. You know what I mean? It must be hard in a way to be in the spotlight the way you are, getting this attention, getting these professionals to help you to do the best job for the dog, and yet still feel somewhat normal. Do you feel somewhat like the other kids in your school, or do you feel quite different?
I get to, there's a lot of times there's like activities like my friends are doing together that I can't go to
That's
because
right.
it's the weekend and I have a dog show. But I don't feel like an outsider.
Good. Good. Because I can imagine the other kids think what you do is pretty glam. I would think it was pretty glam. Kelly, do you watch Kennedy and Lincoln on when it's live broadcast or even on less than live broadcast, whatever they do on the internet? Do you watch them in the ring?
Yeah. Sometimes I do. And actually, when I found out that Kennedy qualified for Westminster a couple months ago, or whenever it was, just a while ago, I texted Shannon right away. I'm like, I'm coming.
Oh, nice. I
I
was
need to
going to
be
ask,
there.
but I didn't want to put you on the spot, so you'll be there.
Yeah, I'm
At
coming up.
ringside. That's so cool. That's
Yeah.
great.
I
I
mean,
think it's going to be an amazing time. The 150th anniversary of Westminster, and you're going to be there with this dog and this young lady who have every chance of being the winners. How cool is that? Are you also in the Pekingese breed classes, Kennedy, not just the junior handling?
Yes, so the top 10 Pekingese in the breed qualify, and the one that win the national qualifies. So we actually entered him in the lottery to get in because he
Wow.
wasn't in either of those. So we entered him in the lottery and he made it in.
Congratulations. That's very cool. So you're going to have two sets of classes, two sets of rings to go in.
Yeah.
It's terrific. I thank you both for being here, like on the eve of this extremely exciting and very high pressure, but I hope really fun competition. We're all going to be listening to this after you've won, and I don't mean to jinx you, but I feel like you should and you could and you might. And I hope Lincoln has fun. He looks like it's okay by him. This is all okay by him. Lots of brushing, lots of kissing, and it seems to go down well with him. Kelly, I hope that you learn something about some other breeds while you're standing ringside and take some notes home about some of the other breeds that you'll see, right? You have so much to take in, you things through a vet's eyes, which is a very
yeah.
different perspective.
Yeah, definitely. Vet size. All I see is like injuries and
Yes,
nutrition and like
exactly. And
things like
lameness
that.
that nobody else notices. Thanks to all three of you, because I'm thanking Lincoln as well. And to your mom, Shannon, for being so devoted to what you're doing and for being the pug lady behind the scenes or in front of the scenes. You're both really amazing women. And what you're doing is great. Great for dogs, great for the dog sport. And keep it up, and I'll be rooting for you for sure. Take
Yeah.
care. Thank you both so very much. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.